The Grand Prix Drivers Association is a strong union at the heart of Formula One, with every driver on the grid a member, giving it a lot of sway over how the championship is run. However, with GPDA director Sebastian Vettel now retired from the sport, his position in the union is up for debate, which could significantly alter the political landscape of F1. Without further ado, let's look at Sebastian Vettel's position as GPDA director, who could replace him, and what the current drivers think about the situation. Vettel will decide if he wants to stay as director. Vettel has been a director of the GPDA since 2010, and he's well known in the organization for advocating for driver safety as well as various humanitarian causes. And despite his retirement, Vettel's departure from the GPDA is not guaranteed, as even those who are currently without a seat are allowed to continue in the role. Chairman Alex Wurz is an example of this. The Austrian retired from Formula One in 2007, but returned 7 years later to take up his current position. In an interview with the media, Wurz revealed that Vettel's future with the GPDA has not yet been decided, and that the current members decided to wait until the new season before making a decision to give Vettel time to think it over. "We will decide on Vettel's role during the first part of the season," Wurz revealed, as we all wanted to give Seb time to consider his own future with perhaps continuous involvement in the GPDA. The 48-year-old revealed that if Vettel decides to step down, the current members will vote on his replacement at the first European race of the season in Baku. George Russell is also currently a director, as is lawyer Anastasia Fowl, who became the first non-driver to hold such a role in 2021. Vettel has kept his cards close to his chest when it comes to his future, with his only public appearance since retirement being alongside Mick Schumacher at the Race of Champions. But Wurz believes Vettel has the qualities to become the GPDA chairman one day. Of course, Seb could do the chairman of the GPDA job, as much as he has the greatest potential to be the boss of many other organizations, Wurz said. In fact, if Sebastian turns his attention to things, he always does a stellar job. "I consider him as a good friend, and whilst we don't talk every day, he is simply a good friend, an amazing person with no such thing as small talk. Whilst we all witnessed him being quite fiery and perhaps stubborn or very demanding inside the car, outside with the helmet off, he's a great guy and an asset to any organization or task." Of course, it's not a given that Vettel will stay on as a director. So, who will take over if he decides to leave? Well, as it stands now, there are 5 potential candidates for the position. Valtteri Bottas. Following Vettel's retirement and the departure of Daniel Ricciardo from the grid, Bottas became the active driver with the 4th most race starts, trailing only Fernando Alonso, Lewis Hamilton and Sergio Perez, indicating that he has plenty of experience in the sport. Not only that, but his experience differs from that of Alonso and Hamilton. Bottas spent time at the back of the grid in his first season with Williams, and his 5 years at Mercedes prepared him for life at the top. He's now fighting in the midfield for Alfa Romeo, and his varied experience across the field should allow him to relate to almost every driver on the grid. Bottas also appears to be someone who can see the big picture and is not afraid to stand up for what he believes in, as evidenced by his recent comments in response to the FIA's ban on driver statements. As one of the seemingly more well-liked member of the grid, Bottas could be an ideal choice. Carlos Sainz. Another possible candidate is Ferrari's Carlos Sainz, who has repeatedly demonstrated his willingness to speak up if he believes something is wrong. Going back to the inaugural Miami Grand Prix in 2022, Sainz was one of the circuit's most vocal critics, particularly of the barriers, having crashed into them during free practice. The only question is how much time Sainz is willing to sacrifice for the role. He is already in a high-pressure environment as a Ferrari driver, and as he prepares for a title push in 2023, his mind may be more focused on his own concerns than those of the other 19 drivers. Pierre Gasly. Pierre Gasly expressed an interest in ensuring that the drivers' voices are heard by the sports executives as early as 2018, and he has maintained that interest to this day. Following the Japanese Grand Prix, in which he came dangerously close to colliding with a safety truck on a wet Suzuka circuit, Gasly demanded more from the FIA in terms of driver protection and continued to advocate for improved safety measures. Like the other drivers mentioned, Gasly has experience up and down the grid, but perhaps a move to a whole new team, the first of his career, is too much to combine with the GPDA role. Sergio Perez. The Mexican qualifies for experience not only in terms of races completed, but also in the variety of positions he has occupied on the grid. Perez also appears to be a well-liked character on the grid, and his reaction to the start of the Japanese Grand Prix demonstrated his willingness to advocate for driver safety. But as with Sainz, will Perez be too preoccupied with a possible title fight to devote his full attention to a directing role? There's no reason why a GPDA director cannot also fight for the title. After all, Vettel became director during his first title-winning season, and Michael Schumacher served as chairman during his winning days. However, it is not an easy balancing act. Lewis Hamilton. Given that Lewis Hamilton has been at the pinnacle of the sport for the past 16 years, there is every reason to believe that he has already been offered a GPDA position, but has declined it. Hamilton, without a doubt, is the driver with the most interests outside of the track. So perhaps the 7-time world champion does not believe he has the time in his schedule to fully commit to the GPDA role. Few would doubt that he would be a good fit for the role if he agreed to it, however, given his constant willingness to stand up for causes he believes in, and his many years of experience in the sport. Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton appear to be the most suitable candidates to potentially replace Vettel. Of course, that is only possible if the German actually decides to leave the GPDA. How Sebastian Vettel could make a return to F1. How likely or unlikely that is depends on how Vettel sees his future in motorsport in general. If the German wants to get out of the spotlight and focus on his family and any other ventures he might want to start, it's unlikely he'll want to work for the union any longer. On the other hand, if he sees himself returning, either as a driver or more likely in a management position, staying on as a director and possibly becoming more involved could pave the way for a smooth transition. To bolster the case for the latter, there have already been reports of Vettel potentially returning to his old employer Red Bull in a managerial capacity. Red Bull Motorsport advisor Helmut Marko spoke last November that the newly retired driver could one day take on his role in finding and managing young talent for the team. And he recently reiterated that he would like to see the 4-time world champion back in the paddock in some capacity soon. That is, of course, easier said than done. And Christian Horner, Vettel's longtime boss at Red Bull, does not see it happening anytime soon. "I don't think so," Horner responded when asked about the possibility of Vettel reuniting with the team in a management capacity. "I can't see Seb doing a 9-to-5 job or moving to the UK, and I think there's so many other things in his life that he wants to do and achieve with his family. He's a little bit of a free spirit, and he has many projects that he's hugely passionate about. And I think there's certain things in Formula One, other than the driving, that obviously he felt conflicted about. So maybe to Formula One as an environmental advisor. That might be something, that he can take and use his passion. But I think in the day-to-day operation of a team, I'd be very surprised if he were to get involved in that." Vettel retired from Formula One with the 3rd highest win total of any driver in history. His 53 victories, trailing only Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton. It's obvious he would be an invaluable member of the Red Bull team. So it's safe to say that if he was available, he'd be welcomed with open arms by the team, which means the ball is in his court as to whether he wants to join or not. The German has already indicated an interest in competing in other categories, such as rallying, so it may be some time before that happens. As for whether he will continue to serve as a director of the GPDA, or who will take his place if he steps down, we'll just have to wait and see. What are your thoughts on Sebastian Vettel's position in the GPDA? Who will replace him if he leaves? Please let us know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking it and subscribing. Be sure to click the bell icon to be notified of future uploads. Thanks for watching.